What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and yet again we have another low-key racist individual trying to blame all of their problems on white people again. In this video, I'll be covering one of the writers of the Netflix show The Night Agent, whose name is Corey Deshawn. Corey believes that it's because of white people that the entertainment industry is currently falling apart. He blames all of his problems while never once actually realizing the real reason why everything is going downhill so quickly. So put on your hazmat suit, take my hand, and let's walk through the cesspool together, shall we? Via an article from Bounding Into Comics titled, Netflix's The Night Agent writer goes after David Zaslav. No amount of public-facing diversity can ever overcome the destructive force that is one old white man.
What's wrong with you?
According to the article, this Netflix writer, Corey Deshawn, blames Warner Discovery's current CEO, David Zaslav, for scrapping HBO Max's original vision, which was apparently to push content for a younger and more diverse audience. This Corey fella has quite a lot to say, so let's hear him out before we get spicy, and I quote, "What folks on the outside might not know is that the original intent of HBO Max was to be a younger and more diverse HBO. They went out of their way to seek out creatives and develop projects to fit that. Then one overpaid, under-seasoned turkey breast comes along and destroys it. No amount of public-facing diversity can ever overcome the destructive force that is one old white man who believes everything must conform to his personal worldview. We'll never experience equity or freedom of expression until we free ourselves from that black hole of thought. Also, because he's a Trumper who paid himself an egregious amount of money to strategically erase the work of POC, single-handedly setting back industry efforts to target underrepresented communities by at least a decade. This industry could be so much more, and the only reason that it isn't is because less than a dozen men of the same demographic consciously choose for it to not be." End quote. Deshawn essentially believes that people like David Zaslav are to blame for the massive shift in content currently underway at places like Warner Discovery, and he thinks it's white people's fault that diverse voices, as he puts it, won't be heard. And this is where I'm going to get spicy, so hear me out, but as always, I don't sugarcoat what I say. The reason why entertainment sucks so much these days is not because of white people, but because ideology and identity matter more than actual talent and hard work. This Corey Deshawn character is a Netflix writer for shows like The Night Agent and Power Book 2 Ghost. I'm not here to bash any of Deshawn's works because it seems like he does some good stuff. But unfortunately, he's another individual who has fallen to the mass pandemic that is terminal victim mentality.
How racist are you?
Between a 3 and 4 of racist?
Actually, black people do not have the structural power in the United States to be racist.
How racist are you on a scale from 1 to 10?
I'd like to say 10.
Too many people these days, regardless of their skin color or sex, believe themselves to be victims. This is largely strengthened by the constant propaganda around them that pushes an agenda saying they are not able to achieve success because of things like their skin color, for example. What's annoying is that these victim mindset individuals like Deshawn always fail to state how diverse things are these days, and how it's actually much easier to land roles if you are a person of color as opposed to being white. In order to conceal their identity, I regularly talk to a certain actor in Hollywood who's told me the going-ons behind the scenes as of late, and how hard it is to land roles because their skin is white. I should also say this person isn't even really white but is ethnic and has white skin, but the Hollywood producers and casting agents see his white skin and push him aside. His ability to act is not considered simply due to the color of his skin. If this particular actor was, say, a black man or woman, he would have a much easier time landing roles simply because he would check certain identity boxes. So for Deshawn to say it's because of white people like Zaslav that's holding people of color back is stupid, because the landscape of modern entertainment doesn't back his claims at all. If anything, it's much easier to be anyone but white these days in pretty much most industries if we're being honest. You will of course run into wokey white people who denounce others that look like them and state they are the problem, which just comes across as some weird, diluted self-hatred cope, and likely because it makes these white people feel like Daenerys in that one scene in Game of Thrones.
Leave me alone! Actually, black people do not have the structural power in the United States to be racist.
The reality is that it's never been easier to land jobs or get into schools, for example, by being anything but white. In fact, when it comes to things like applying to get into universities, applicants that are white or Asian must reach a much higher score than Black or Hispanic students. In this article by Mary Chow, she explains how her daughter, who's a hardworking student, was terrified to submit applications to schools simply because she was Asian. According to Chow, the simple box checking confirming her Asian cultural background immediately meant her daughter's future could be taken by someone with a much lower GPA than her. And the reason behind this real scenario isn't if the person taking her daughter's seat had a higher GPA than her, but if the other student's racial background wasn't Asian. Of course, you'll hear this and think that's crazy. There's no way these sorts of things happen in the real world, but unfortunately they do. According to research from Princeton University, students who identify as Asian must score 140 points higher on the SAT than whites, and 450 points higher than Blacks to have the same chance of admission to private colleges. Basically, the way society is structured these days, if you are white or Asian, you are exponentially at a higher risk of being sidelined when it comes to your academic future. A Black or Hispanic student could grade much lower than an Asian student, yet they'll get in because the school wants diversity within those fields. But the cold, harsh reality is that the people getting these opportunities are not always worthy of gaining that access. I'm not saying Black or Hispanic people are stupid, far from that, but if you have a working brain between your ears, you have to agree that this is all lunacy. This is just racism with more steps in the end. What these schools and oftentimes workplaces like the entertainment industry are doing is they are hiring people not based on their talent or skill, but like I said in the beginning of this rant, their identity, which seems to matter more than anything else. So why am I talking so long about this? Well, it's to show you that people like Corey Deshawn are full of crap when it comes to taking them seriously.
Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
The entertainment industry has never been more diverse, and the voices of who gets to make content has also become more diverse as well. But diversity of choice and representation doesn't mean the products being made will be better either.
How are we going to get rid of racism until...
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
What Deshawn fails to mention is that Warner Discovery's financial situation wasn't brought upon itself because of white men like Zaslav. It happened because Warner Discovery pushed for identity politically driven content instead of quality, which resulted in massive misfires like the cancelled Batgirl film, which was so bad it was called brand damaging. And Warner Discovery chose to shelf the film and throw it away for tax returns due to how bad it was. But on the surface, the film was an identity politically stuffed slam dunk. But like I said, diversity does not always equal quality. Of course, there's been plenty of amazing content that's been made by people of color. Movies like Get Out, Us, and Nope from Jordan Peele are great examples of how a unique voice like Peele's leads to movies that were both critically and commercially beloved by many. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won an Oscar and is considered by many to be one of the best comic book films of the past decade. We even got great classics like Training Day, Straight Outta Compton, Friday, Coming to America, and Bad Boys, just to name some. The difference between the movies listed above and the identity politically driven sludge of today is that those movies were made by people who've proven themselves to be good at what they do. Whether they're black, white, or so on means little when the story and product are high quality. And remember that David Zaslav was brought into Warner Discovery because the company was bleeding money due to how poorly managed it was. Around the time when Zaslav entered, WB was dying from a content bloat due to how many misfires were happening across the company. And if things didn't change, it would have been very likely that Warner Discovery would have gone under. Zaslav had to take a fine comb to Warner's bloated discography and roles within the company and make the unfortunate but needed changes to bring the company back to profitability. And while people losing their jobs is never a good thing, the grim reality is that you can't pay your bills with diversity dollars. You need to actually make profit in order to keep the lights on. The same thing is currently happening over at Disney right now, with Bob Iger and his team having to remove content from Disney Plus, and close down expensive ventures like Star Wars Cruiser, as well as slash over 7,000 jobs as well. None of these things would need to happen if Disney actually pushed quality over quantity. But instead of making shows about characters like Ghost Rider or introducing the X-Men, we've gotten stinkers like Miss Marvel, which nobody watched. And we're getting a show about Echo before Daredevil gets his own proper Disney Plus show. In the conceptual stages of the MCU, there's no way a character like Echo would get their own show. But the lead actress is First Nations, deaf, and has a missing limb, so the character and the actor herself are like a woke activist's wet dream. Look, the point I'm trying to get at here is that we are not in some white people apocalypse like Corey Deshawn believes we are in. We're not in a drought of diverse voices or people of ethnic backgrounds leading media. What we are in is a very real situation where the harsh reality of woke activism is snapping back and crashing into companies' faces. We don't have a diversity problem, but we do have a quality of product problem. It doesn't matter how many people of color or pronoun collectors you throw at a project if nobody in the room knows what they're doing, or has any idea on how to make something that'll be successful. I hope you don't watch this video and believe something along the lines of Endymion doesn't like people of color and wants white people to control everything. Or if you did get that from what I've been saying, that's likely because you're also just a victim of the woke mind virus, unfortunately. Look, stop blaming white people for all of your problems. Stop having a victim mentality mindset and stop pushing the idea that all of the world's problems would be fixed if white people didn't exist. Because ultimately, you are proving the point that in the end, all you see when you look at people is not their work ethic, their talents, or their opinions. But all you see is the color of someone's skin, and that, my friends, is racist, no matter who is on the receiving end of that. People like Zaslav wouldn't have even needed to be called in the first place to clean up Warner's mess if there wasn't one to begin with. We got to where we are because of moronic ideas like identity politics in the first place. So while I don't think people like Corey Deshawn are idiots, they are definitely the latest victims of the mind virus and the new religion that is wokeism. Stop playing the victim, see the world for what it really is, and for the love of God, please, think before you speak. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.